Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today I am talking about the Colorado Avalanche and what they need to do at this upcoming trade deadline. So, the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Colorado Avalanche, are 13th in the NHL and 3rd place in the Central Division. And right now, a playoff spot isn't really a concern. They're going to make it in. They have 67 points. They're 3rd in the Central. Below them is the Minnesota Wild, who's in a wild card spot right now, and they have 65 points. So even if the Wild overtake them in this season, they're going to make it into the wild card because the 3rd place team in the wild card is the St. Louis Blues, who's selling their team right now, and they're 58 points. So really, and below them is Nashville with 56 points. So really a concern of making the playoffs isn't really there. They're a good 11 points ahead of the team below them that's actually still trying for a playoff spot. So that is not what they're concerned with, nor should they be. They're the Avalanche. They're going to make it to the playoffs. But when it comes to the playoffs, though, I do think they could use a little bit of help. Now, last year, of course, this team went big at the NHL trade deadline. They bring in Josh Manson. They bring in Cogliano. They bring in Arturi Lehkonen. Huge factors in them winning the Stanley Cup and their success this season, too. But really, that playoff run last year, especially Josh Manson, I think was the best move for the playoffs last trade deadline. Lehkonen may be better this year than Josh Manson this year, but for the playoff push especially, Josh Manson was huge to boost their already superstar defensive lineup back there. But I think going into this year, I don't think they're going to be able to make those big moves again, because I think they sold a lot of stuff off last year, and I don't know what they're going to be able to give up this season. But right now, there's some not big talks, but one of the teams in the Patrick Kane sweepstakes is apparently the Avalanche, which I don't see any way of happening really, because he's got a big cap hit at 10.5, right? So let's say Chicago retains half, okay? That's still $5.2 million left to, well, 5.25, but whatever. And still left on to bring on to this team, which the Colorado Avalanche, one of the best things I will say that they've done is they have amazing contracts overall. They don't no one on this team is really overpaid, I don't think. Maybe one guy, but really overall this team's contracts are really good. But at the same time, with that being a problem, is that usually you could go look at a certain team, let's say like the Bruins, and maybe a guy like Craig Smith isn't worth, what is he, like $3.8 million or something like that? You could maybe offload that money. But the Colorado Avalanche are up to the cap, and all of their money's spent in the right places. So they don't really have anyone they can give up to make room to bring anyone on. So bringing in a Patrick Kane would be very tough for this team. Even if they could do what the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Blues did, having a third team take some salary cap, it would still be tough, because say they do it with Arizona, they got a lot of cap room, right? Say they make a trade with them, making Patrick Kane go to Arizona, so it's half and then maybe another half, and then Arizona, I mean, that's still half of 5.25 is still 2.125, so that's still 2.125, and the Avalanche, really, they'd have to give up 2 players that are making less than $1 million, which they do have a couple of on this team, but it's still going to be tough for them to make that trade, and also the added fact, I don't know what they'd give up for it either. So Patrick Kane's a big question mark for me. I don't see how they could possibly pull it off and then give up what they'd be asking for either, but it's one of the big names out there for them, so I don't know. But then I was thinking, this team is amazing defensively. I think that's their biggest strength last season especially. When it comes to generating offense from the back end, this is one of the only redeeming factors that I like of the Colorado Avalanche, being a fan. I know they're an amazing team, but as a fan of hockey, I hate them. But I respect them, I love them, I think they're a great team. And the one thing that I really give them credit for is their ability to generate from the back to the front. I mean, Cale Makar, for one. And I think they should overload on that. And I think with their contract situation and not having a lot of budget room, working room, whatever, is Shane Gostisbehere from the Coyotes. He's got 29 points this year, every year that he's been with the Coyotes, he's been phenomenal offensively and on the Coyotes. And I think if he's moved to a team like Colorado and given it a chance to produce, this guy might be their second best defenseman out there. Now, once again, I don't know what they could give up for it. I think Gosh Despair, by the way, 5.1 million or something like that. Retain half of that. Once again, I don't really know what they could give up, and I know that's like, well, that's not a lot of insightful opinion, but I would be willing to say that it'd be worth giving up one guy, maybe, for Shane Gosh Despair in return. And one thing I will say, well, no, that wouldn't make any sense either. I don't know. Shane Gosh Despair, if you wanted to overload and, like, the best thing for a playoff team to do, I think, is when you bring in that overpowering, like, one more guy to your team. When it comes to Colorado, bringing that one more offensive defenseman who actually is really good at generating offense would be spectacular for them. But I just don't know what they could give up. They only got their first round this year, and they're missing the second, third, and fourth round. They don't have any picks for there, which are the valuable ones. And I don't really know what they'd be willing to trade away either. So they're really... I don't want to say they've shot themselves in the foot because they're still in a great position to win the Stanley Cup. But when it comes to bringing in another player to overpower, there's not a lot of wiggle room. So Shane Gosh Despair, I think, would be a perfect move for them. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they're geniuses when it comes to the making trades, right? Joe Sakic, he's a genius, right? And I'm sure he could figure out something to pull off. But I don't know what they could possibly do. But here's one I think they could take a risk on. They took a risk with Nichushkin. They took a risk on Lehkonen. It's paid off huge. And I think bringing in Jesse Puljujarvi would be an interesting move. Now, yes, he's 13 points. Not anything spectacular. We already know this. But with the few stuff that they actually could trade away, the few assets they have, Puljujarvi might be the best choice for them. I really think Colorado could use some more depth, especially on that fourth line. And by throwing a bone to a guy like Pesci, but to Puljujarvi, I think would be a great move. I think throwing out, because it doesn't Edmonton keep saying like they just want anything, they just get rid of him. So if they could just trade away, like, who knows, like their 6th and 7th pick for him, I think apparently Edmonton just wants to get rid of him, and maybe they'll take it. So I think that'd be a worthwhile risk, and I think they could use some more down below and make the team even better, and it's better than having Dennis Mulligan on the team, right? So it's better than having just one of these throwaway players. Maybe bring him in, and maybe he could score you a few goals on the power play or something. So I think it's worth the risk, especially with what little they have. And then on the board, I just threw in some other names, like, of course, you can say anything about these teams, right? For the Predators, there's talks now about Michael Granlund, right? And I think they could use another centerman down the line, third line maybe. Granlund's an amazing player. He's not a third-line player, but for a superstar team to overpower and win the Stanley Cup, that would be, I think, a great spot. Same thing for Dylan Larkin or Tyler Bertuzzi. Bertuzzi would be interesting because he doesn't make too much money that they could actually try to make a move like that work. But once again, it'd be pretty tough. And then Timo Meier, of course. He's one that could maybe work as well. With having $6.8 million, you retain that to 3.4. That could still work, I guess. But I just don't know what they could give up because they're so good on contract that they don't have anyone to move out unless it really hurts the team. Unless you want to upgrade. And, like, you could go with Meier over Lehkonen or something, which would be a move I would be willing to do. I think that'd be a good move, but then overall, I don't think they'd be able to keep Meier on the team, so they'd get rid of him and then lose Lehkonen in return. So it would be worth it for this playoff run, but not for the long run. So really, that's their biggest problem. They have no assets, and I think they should make a move for someone, and that's really what made them win last season, and I feel like they kind of need that, especially with the loss of Landeskog in the lineup. Someone like Granlund or Larkin filling in that centerman role in the top two. I know I said third earlier, but I'm being stupid. So I think that's what they would really need. But overall, Colorado, I think they need to make a move. They still have pretty good chances to win the Stanley Cup and go far, but especially with the loss of Landeskog is going to be tough on this team. And I just gotta say, Colorado, I mean, they're superstar team, but I don't feel that momentum that they had last year going into the playoffs. Like, last year going into it, I really felt that they were a beast. And this year, it's not that I think they're bad by any means, but I do think that they don't really have that momentum, that story behind them this year. And I think that came from the trade deadline, bringing these guys who were actually scoring and being exciting to watch. And this year, I just don't feel that. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but tell me how stupid I am down below in the comments section. Tell me how much of an idiot I am down below, but also down below, pick up your free subscription by hitting that red subscribe button. Leave a like, not a dislike, but go down below. Tell me how stupid I am in the comments section. I know, I'm an idiot. And until next time, I hope you're having an amazing day. Too sweet, and ta-ta for now.